Welcome to Andy's Garage. I'm Andy Phillips. Today I'm going to show you how to replace the fuel pump assembly on this Jeep Wrangler TJ. So let's get started. Now there's 7 1/2-inch nuts that are holding the fuel tank up there. So let's slide underneath. I'll show you where they're located, and I'll show you where you're going to need the half-size extension onto the full size in order to get up in there. Now this is the back bumper. So this is the back of the fuel tank, and as you're coming up here, you'll see there's one there. That's not one. You got another one there, and there's another one there, and let's see, then one down there. So there's a total of 4 along this back. And now if we slide around to the front, towards the front of the vehicle, let's head over that way. There's none on this passenger side here, but as we start to loop around here, there's one all the way up in there. So you're going to need that extra extension to get up there. And now coming along here, you'll see that there's one tucked all the way up in there. So we're going to need it for that one. There's another one down there. So you've got 3 on this side here. You have that one on that corner, and then you have 2 here facing the front of the vehicle that need to come off. There's your connections there. You have your electrical harness, your fuel line. I believe that's a vacuum line there. And then that's pretty much it. And then we'll be able to drop it. And don't get distracted by all the rust and crap like right there. That's all going to be addressed at a later time. Right now we're just focusing just on the fuel pump assembly. Now to complete this project here, here's a few of the items that you're going to need. You're going to need a hydraulic jack with some kind of a board that we can lay across the top of it, so that way we're not resting it right on the fuel tank. It's not 100% necessary, but it makes it easier when you're trying to lower the fuel tank or raise it, especially if you still have gas in the tank. In the case of this one, I've emptied it, so that's not going to be a problem, but I do recommend having that. You are going to need your ratchet along with a 1/2-inch socket. You're going to need the full size extension and a half size, and I'll show you why you're going to need both in a minute. Breaker bar is not a bad idea, especially if you're dealing with maybe some nuts and bolts and stuff on a vehicle that could be maybe seized on there or rusted a little bit. That's good to kind of loosen those to make it easier. You're going to need some kind of a hammer or a mallet and a flathead screwdriver, and that's to remove the old fuel pump, and I'll show you that. You're also going to need a Phillips screwdriver, and then last but not least, you're going to need your fuel pump assembly, and I'll show you where I picked this one up in the price along the bottom. First thing that we're going to need to do is disconnect the fuel filler neck from this bezel. It's held on by 4 Phillips screws here on the outside rim of the bezel, and then there's 4 on the inside holding the neck onto that. So we're going to go ahead and remove all 8 of those so we can then be able to drop the tank. Now looking in here, you'll see connected right there to the filler neck, that is your rear differential line that's connected as well. So you want to be careful when we drop that we don't damage that. And you'll see we are definitely in the empty zone, which is where you want it to be if you're able to drive the vehicle and empty it. If you're not able to, unfortunately, then you're going to have to deal with a heavier fuel tank, which I've dealt with in the past, and that's always a challenge. So if you can empty it, go ahead and do it, because it'll make your life a lot easier. Okay, I just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of an overview of how I got to this point where I'm changing out the fuel pump on this Wrangler. Basically, I did a fuel pressure test on this several months back. The PSI came in at about 45 PSI, which for the Wrangler, that's on the low end. The range is between 44 and 54. I like the fuel pump to be performing a little bit stronger than that on my vehicles, and more on the higher end, and also taking into consideration that this particular vehicle pushing about 170,000. So I don't believe the former owner ever changed it out. So just as a precautionary measure, I'm just going to go ahead and swap it out. Also, the power is getting a little bit sluggish when you're highway driving and you need that extra push. So
taking all those things into consideration, we're just going to go ahead and replace it, be done with it. And the upcoming months, I'm also going to be doing the fuel injectors as well, because they don't look that great either. So let's head underneath, drop this fuel tank so we can swap it out and wrap it up.
Okay, we're going to start by removing these 1/2-inch nuts. So I'm going to go ahead and take these off. We'll be right back. I went ahead and removed all the ones here along the back. They're all off. Now we're moving here along the side to this one here. The one up in there. That one is extremely tight, so I'm going to use the breaker bar in order to loosen that one. Now that we've removed a few of the bolts, we're going to go ahead and now bring the jack in with a flat board just to secure the fuel tank while we take the rest of the bolts off so it doesn't come dropping down on us. So let's get that in place. Alright, so I got that nut off finally. It was very rusted on. Working on the one right here next to it. Having to use the Irwin bolt grip extractors because these are very rusted on. If you don't have a set of those, highly recommended. If you want to see how to use them to remove a rusted bolt, you can check out my video via the link above on how to do that. But anyway, so I'm going to go ahead now. We're going to get that one off, and then that's the last one holding on this this gas tank plate, this scratch plate or skid plate, whatever you want to call it. So, and then we'll be able to drop it and do the fuel pump. Now this has some rust on it. Had an issue with one in the back that did too, and that actually just broke off, so we're going to have to go back at a later time and fix that. But hoping that's not the case with this because there is a lot of rust up here. So let's see what happens with the breaker. Okay, looks good. Looks like we just broke the connection and not the actual stud or anything else. Now before you go ahead and disconnect the fuel line, when we drop the gas tank, you want to go ahead and remove the pressure out of the fuel line. So to do that, right here, went ahead and remove the Schrader valve. We're just going to go ahead and push that in and let it just spray out all the pressure, so that way we can go ahead and depressurize it. Wasn't much in there since this hasn't been driven in a while, but still, it's always good to make sure you clear that. That way you're not getting fuel sprayed all over you when you go ahead and disconnect the fuel pump. Here's the fuel line here. We're going to go ahead and disconnect that, pull these two, pinch them in, and that should pop right off. Be gentle with that, you don't want to damage it. There we go. Okay, pull that off. That's done. Now let's do the vacuum line. It's easier to remove the vacuum line right there where it comes into that T connection and just pull it off there. And then right here next to it is the electric harness for the fuel pump. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the vacuum line, and then we'll be back to disconnect the fuel pump. Okay. Went ahead and took it off right there. Set it off to the side. And let's go here. First thing you're going to need to do is, there you go, undo the little safety lock, and then you should just be able to just pull these apart. They slide off fairly easy to work here. I got one hand holding the camera, so unfortunately I can't get it off as easy as it is, but here we go. Okay, disconnected. Here's your differential line right here. I'm going to go ahead and cut off that little zip tie holding it, because I don't want to be putting stress on it as we bring this down. So I'm going to go ahead and snip that off, and then we'll pull the gas tank out. Alright, there's the fuel tank completely pulled out. You have the fuel pump right there on top. That's what we're going to be removing. And then we'll go ahead and put the new one in and put it back on. Now these rings can be on very tight. So what I do is I take a flathead screwdriver and a hammer and just gently tap it. We'll remove this line too. There we go. Get that out of the way so we can slide this over. There we go. Now pull that out. You have this gasket seal that we're going to replace, and we'll take that out with it. And you want to bring it out gently. You have this floater right here, which we're going to need to put on the new one. Here's the new one. Let's go ahead and unbox that. Okay, so we have this gasket, which we're replacing. Pull this out. Okay, well, I guess it does have the floater. I didn't think it came with it, but it does, so that's even better. But here you go. This is the new one here. There's the strainer on the bottom. We'll go ahead and attach that. That's your fuel level gauge right there, your sensor, fuel pressure regulator and fuel filter in one, and then your fuel pumps in here. So this assembly has everything in it. We do need to add that clip. It does not have the clip to hold the fuel line on, so we'll move that from the other one and put it on here. Now to put the floater on, basically it inserts here, and then you just press it down in to lock it. There we go. And then basically that'll float and that'll register the level of fuel that's in the tank. Here you can see the two side by side. This is the old one that came off. Here's the new one. So I'm just going to go ahead and slide that gasket up around this lip as that one is. And then, as mentioned already, we're going to take this clip off of here because we'll need it on ours to clip the fuel line on. And then let's go ahead and drop the new one in. To remove this clip, you're going to need just a little flathead screwdriver, so you can just lift up on those two tabs. Once they're lifted up, that'll just slide right off. And then now we'll put that on the new one. All right. You can go ahead now and lower it in. But you want to make sure that the fuel pump is facing. There's an arrow here that points it in the direction of the front. You want to make sure that that's the direction that it's facing, so that way all the connections will line up properly. And you'll see the arrow right there. Have the gasket on tight. Want to make sure that that slides in nicely right around here. There we go. There it is. We'll put the ring on and tighten it now. Go ahead and tighten it by hammering it on the same way we took it off. All right, we're going to go ahead now and put this line back on and just connect it here. Slide that in. Till it locks. There we go. So that's it.
Now that we have the fuel tank dropped, we can get to this broken carriage bolt that broke when we were removing the fuel tank. So let me see if I can push that up. There we go. That's it right there, the carriage bolt. It's broken. That's a 5/16 carriage bolt, so I'm just going to go ahead and drop a new one in. So I have a nice one here. We'll go ahead and put it right through there. There we go. And then all we need to do now is slide a locking washer, and then that's been replaced. All right, well, everything is put in, so now we would put it back on the same way we took it off. We'll go ahead and use the jack, raise it up, bolt it in, connect all the lines back in the same way we took it off, and that pretty much wraps it up. All right, well, that pretty much wraps up this video on how to replace the fuel pump assembly on a Jeep Wrangler TJ. I hope this video was informative and helpful for you. Please send me any questions, any comments. I would love to hear from you. As always, I appreciate all the support. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.